Steelers' 2024-2025 season ends with 5 straight losses. The final one coming in the wild card round of the playoffs with yet another poor performance in the first half, which buried this Steelers team early. And despite some fight in the second half, it just wasn't enough. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, I got 6 takeaways to wrap up kind of this final game of the season. It's another loss, and it's another loss to the Baltimore Ravens, who once again beat this team by multiple scores. They beat this team by 17 points back in Week 16. This time, 28 points. They ran the ball down the throats of the Steelers at will in the first half. The Steelers defense and the offense, for that matter, Russell Wilson ended the day 20 of 29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And, you look at that stat line, you're like, Russ didn't play all that bad. But, the offense was just at a complete standstill. And it wasn't even because Russ was throwing incompletions or anything like that. It was more just Russ, not getting the ball past the sticks enough. And, it wasn't all his fault. Pat Freiermuth failed to get across the sticks multiple times. He dropped the first pass of the game. Run game, once again, wasn't really working at all. And, it wasn't all on Russ, but it certainly wasn't good enough from Russ to carry this team to a playoff victory. And that's going to carry weight, especially after 5 straight losses with him at quarterback heading into the offseason. My first takeaway here is that it's just too little too late. This team showed some fight, and, Mike Tomlin-led teams, they don't quit, man. And, you saw that fight in this team. They did not give up. All right, it was 21-0 heading into half, and, they could have easily given up and just, threw in the towel. Instead, they legitimately fought. Russell Wilson did some good things, especially on 3rd and long in the second half. But, it's just when you're in a situation where you constantly have to throw, you had sacks given up by Broderick Jones, you had penalties putting the team behind the sticks. There's just so much that you can do to come back. And, the defense wasn't getting stops late either. And they were obviously gassed playing against Derrick Henry in that rushing attack. In the playoffs, plain and simply, you got to start games faster. We said it for weeks at this point. If you don't find a way to start games faster, you will not win games in the postseason. They failed to get going early today, and you guys see the result. Second thing, a lot of people are going to call for Mike Tomlin's head, and honestly, guys, I would be if I was in charge, I would fire Mike Tomlin. I think that I have a lot of respect for Coach T. And, I think the players in that locker room will vouch for him every day of the week. Those players in the locker room want him back. But there's something to be said about this being an offensive football league and this team consistently spending too much money on defense with a guy in Mike Tomlin who is a defensive guy, and he prioritizes that side of the ball. And, in an offensive league, you look at all the teams that are successful, Kansas City, San Francisco, Buffalo, Baltimore. Like, all these teams are offensive teams that consistently are ranked in the top 5 to top 10 in offensive statistics on a team level, and the Steelers consistently rank in the bottom 10. All right? And that's a little bit on Mike Tomlin for not doing much getting offensive talent on this team. And, this team is built in his image, and that is on him for building the team this way. You can put it on Kevin Colbert or Omar Khan all you want. It's Mike Tomlin's image, man. And, if I were the Steelers, I would want Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, Liam Cohen, or Joe Brady as my next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But as the thing says here, I think Art Rooney's going to bring him back. It's a 10-win season. It's a playoff season. He's never had a losing season. Those things are going to matter to Art Rooney. And I think this entire coaching staff will be back for 2025, unfortunately. So before we get into the rest of the takeaways today for today's pinned comment, should the Steelers fire Mike Tomlin? Type F for fire or type K for keep. Personally, guys, I'm officially in the fire camp. I think the Steelers need a fresh start. And if they fire him, we will go live here on Steelers Talk. But I don't think it's going to happen, guys. Put your answer down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Third takeaway is I think you got to at least look at quarterback options. And, I think Russell Wilson can still have some level of success in this league, but he cannot carry an offense, all right? He can't be injected into an offense with only one really legitimate offensive receiving weapon in George Pickens. He can't be put in an offense with no run game, and he can't be put in an offense with a well below average pass protection unit and thrive. Like, that used to be the quarterback he was in Seattle. He's no longer that quarterback. He can still deliver a dime down the field from time to time. In fact, he was first this year in EPA per pass attempt, 10-plus air yards down the field. So this guy still has good arm talent, great touch on his ball. He had some good stuff in the second half today, but if you do bring him back, it's got to be on a small contract, and you got to actually put some talent around him, man. You got to have that offensive line playing better. And honestly, if there's an opportunity to upgrade from Russell Wilson on the QB market this year, I'm absolutely taking that. So I really don't know if Russ will be back, but personally, I kind of hope they get an upgrade. So coming up here on Steelers Talk, more takeaways from the loss. I'm going to discuss it with you guys here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place for you to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And Game Time has a brand new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen for an event you want to go see, and Game Time automatically filters through every single ticket for that event on their app to show you the best deals with the best seats, best prices, all that great stuff, so that you and your family always get the best possible deals. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all-in pricing, so you just don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout, which is awesome, and then flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, this game, when you get down to it, when we get to my fourth takeaway here, I've got onto the quarterback situation here, guys. I'm going to take a lot of flack for this because I know a lot of people really believe in this guy. And to some degree, I really want to believe in Justin Fields. But, I'm not sure Russell Wilson is the answer. And honestly, I'm not sure if Justin Fields is the right solution to the problem here in Pittsburgh. If he does become the starter in Pittsburgh next year, he's got a lot of things as a pocket passer that he needs to improve significantly. He needs to improve his downfield accuracy. He needs to improve his downfield vision. He needs to improve his timing, he needs to improve his anticipation, and he needs to improve his pocket footwork and pocket presence in order to become the star quarterback, frankly, he has the potential to become. He's a dynamic rusher. He's got a big body. He's got incredible arm talent, can throw on the run, can do a lot of things. And it sounds like Tomlin and Arthur Smith really like him. So there's certainly an opportunity here potentially for the Steelers to move off of Russell Wilson and go to Justin Fields, maybe on a one-year deal, and they bring in like a high-end backup in case Fields just isn't it next year. They could certainly go that route. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the quarterback position. But if they do make Justin Fields this team's franchise quarterback moving forward, I do have many question marks about his game heading into future seasons. Then we get to George Pickens here. And speaking of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields being free agents, GP's not a free agent, but he is on an expiring rookie contract next year. And I think given the way GP thinks of himself here, I think he does feel like he believes an extension before the final year of his contract is up. And I think he's going to want somewhere in the range of $28 to $30 million per season because he views himself as a top 10 receiver in the game. And, it's going to be interesting to see if the Steelers view him that way, first of all. And then number two, if they're willing to pay him that much money, even though reportedly he's been late to meetings all year, late to practices at times. He's crashed out and he's fought with opponents. And personality and behavior issues have been an issue consistently in his career. So do you really trust to pay a guy $28 to $30 million a year with those kinds of issues? And it's going to be an interesting decision to see if they pay him or if they potentially trade him. But I really don't know the answer to that at this point in time. Then the final takeaway here is same old Steelers, man. And I think it's gonna be the same thing, man. And it's once again, defense doesn't show up in the postseason. Once again, a Mike Tomlin-led team doesn't show up in the postseason. And it's damn frustrating as a Steelers fan, man. So many playoff losses in a row now. Haven't won since the divisional round back in 2016. There's only been 4 seasons in 18 years where the Steelers have won a playoff game under Mike Tomlin. If you're wondering, that's 22% of his seasons. And it's just not good enough, man. Plain and simply. And if I were Art Rooney and I were the Steelers, I would fire Mike Tomlin either Sunday or Monday, and I would be looking to change the trajectory of this team from a defensive-led culture and paying a lot of defensive players money and trying to be that, dominant defensive team to shifting over to the offensive side of the ball and really going with a full makeover this offseason. I'm not saying completely blow it up. I'm saying try to, reallocate what you value from a cap management standpoint And I don't think the Steelers are going to do that. I think Mike Tomlin will be back next year. I think Arthur Smith will be back as OC. I think Terrell Austin will be back as DC. But there's definitely changes coming in Pittsburgh, and we're going to be covering it all here, right here on Steelers Talk this offseason. So tell me, down there in the comment section, who do you blame for the loss? Who do you blame for the 5-game collapse? There's a lot of good answers, man. And, I think that my answer to this question is Mike Tomlin. And, obviously players got to execute all this different stuff, but 5 straight losses to finish out a season, most of those by multiple scores, is just a terrible look, man. It's a terrible look. It's another Tomlin collapse here in Pittsburgh, and it's embarrassing to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan right now. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button. If they do fire Tomlin tomorrow, if they do fire him on Monday, I wouldn't expect it, but if they do it, we're going to be going live with a massive Steelers Talk live show heading up, which is pretty much as rare as a new pope at this point, a new Steelers head coach. So we'll see what happens here in the coming days. But honestly, guys, I wouldn't keep my hopes up too high. But one thing is for sure, it's going to be an interesting offseason here on Steelers Talk, so make sure you click that subscribe button to never miss a video.